In. Here we go. All right. Welcome, everybody.
Hi, BookTube.
Hello, BookTube. We are here. We are finally here. I'm just making sure all the sound is set.
Yep.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Welcome, everyone, to our BookTube. We'll wait a few minutes to see if some folks pop into the room. Let's see here.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this, Peg. This is going to be fun, I think. We had scheduled, or the last time we did this, we wanted to try to make it a weekly or bi-weekly thing. And yeah, I may have dropped the ball on that one, so I do apologize for that.
Oh, you did not. I think we were both just kind of juggling. Hello. Lockster Reads. Remind me of your name again, Lockster Reads, so we can call you by your proper name if you so desire. And greetings in London. I hope the weather is nice there.
It's warm here.
It's cooking.
What's your temperature in Colorado?
Tony, that's right. It is 90. Let me check my trusty phone here. We're supposed to hit like 93 today. How about in Iowa?
Well, I thought earlier today, 10 o'clock, I had to do some umpiring, and I was pretty sure it was 90, and that's not what the temperature gauge said, but it sure felt that way. How about I just say that?
Yes, totally.
Mid 80s, but it felt 90. The humidity was high.
Oh, the humidity makes everything 10 times worse, you know? Oh, we've got some folks in here. Oh, hi, Liz. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Tony.
Hello, everybody.
There's Brian.
Hey, Brian.
There you go. Hello, fellow humans. We're so glad you guys could be with us. These are our peeps.
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
Hi, Sandra.
Sandra. Yeah. Hi. Yes. Okay. Wow. Well, let's where should we begin?
Well, let's start with what books have you most recently finished up? Have you anything that's worth talking about?
Yes, I can finally say that this big beast of a book on Charles Sumner.
I have that one at home.
Conscience of a Nation by Zakir Tamiz. My review of it just ran, and just between us here, Publishers Weekly, I'm supposed to be anonymous. It got a starred review. I could not. This was amazing. Bill, you're going to love this.
And I take that back. That's not the one I have. I had the one from last year that's got almost the exact same cover.
With the same.
Yeah, really? You turn it sideways and it looks a lot thicker than the one. Yeah, that's way thicker than the one I have.
Yeah, this one's very authoritative. It's exhaustive, but it's not written that way. This book was just fantastic. Sandra, this is Charles Sumner, Conscience of a Nation by Zakir Tamiz. The book just came out, I think, earlier this week. And this is probably going to be the definitive biography on Sumner, at least for the next 20 years or so. I mean, the amount of work Tamiz put into this is amazing. He's a constitutional scholar, the author. And what also blew me away, Sumner still gets caned, Brian. That doesn't change in this story. What was I saying? So Sumner, what surprised me about the author is he is like in his early 20s. And I think he might be like a Mensa type of guy, because he is like, just, I don't know. I'm like a 20-something wrote this, but he did. And it's just, I've got so many places underlined in this book. And Bill, the other book that I think you're referring to is the one by Stephen Puleo. And he was great.
Yep.
That was a great biography too. This one just goes into a lot more depth.
Does it?
Yes. On Sumner's, his philosophy, his legislative contributions, the work he did in Congress, outside of all of the more, like the things that catch the headlines, like the caning and this kind of stuff, and the crime against Kansas speech. There was just so much more that Sumner did. And when I first read this description to you guys, I was kind of like, I hadn't read it yet. And it was like, oh, and then, talks about Sumner maybe being homosexual or whatever. That was such a very, very small part of this. Like someone, who wrote the copy must have been like, ooh, this might be a really big timely point to hang it on. But it really wasn't. I mean, Tamiz was just saying, look, in the parlance of the day, and he had very close male relationships, he probably was gay, but he doesn't go on and on about it, and it's just like, he probably was, but it was a different time and people didn't, so I was like, I completely respect that take. It's just, there's no there. I mean, it's just like, you never really know, so why do we have to waste time on it,
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Let me add some comments to here. So I highly recommend it.
It'll be one I'm on the lookout for.
Yeah, it was great. So that's one I recently finished. I'll get that one out of the way and I'll let you pop in. Ooh.
My turn.
Yes.
All right. So I've got my list because I kind of keep a running tab on what I've read and what I haven't read because I don't want to get things confused. So if you see me glancing down, it's at my list because a couple of these books were from the library and I had to return them. But I don't know if you have read Kristen Hanna's The Women.
It's on my list. People have recommended it to me.
It is a good book, and it's all about women who served in the Vietnam War and how they were there, but everybody wanted to think that they weren't there. And then their experiences coming home and PTSD type situations. And oh my goodness, it was a powerful, powerful novel. Really, really good. It was the other book by Kristen Hanna that I had read was Alone. Okay. And it's about the same pacing.
Right.
Yeah, so it's not one I could recommend to my wife because she likes a little faster paced book. It's got a kind of a steady pace, but man, was the material in it. It was powerful stuff. It was real good.
Okay.
Also got through The Guns of August by Barbara Tuchman.
Yeah.
And I liked that. It was very authoritative over basically just the month of August. I mean, it really focused on August. It didn't span any more time than that for the most part. I liked it. The narrative is maybe I've been spoiled by some of the more recent books that have come out. The narratives move a little faster than what Barbara Tuchman's did, but I still like the material.
Okay.
Maybe not something I would give as a recommendation right off the get-go.
Yeah.
For somebody new to World War I stuff.
Yeah. I have to say, I liked The Guns of August, but the one I loved more was The Proud Tower.
Okay. I haven't read that.
It sets the stage for World War I. It gives you the whole state of Europe at the time and the world.
Is that from 1900 to 1914?
Yes, roughly. It might be even like a little like 1890s, like late 1890s too.
I'm pretty sure I saw that one, and my wife said, "No, you're not buying any more books." So I put it down because I'm pretty sure that's the one I saw, and I wanted to get it.
Well, you still need to, because if you, I read The Proud Tower first, and then I went into The Guns of August. And that one, would you say that one was more, had a lot more detail as far as like, especially with the lead up to like the Zimmerman telegram and all this kind of stuff?
Yeah, it went over that stuff pretty good, I thought. Yep. So what else have you read?
Okay, let's see here. Ooh, we've got some great recommendations in the chat, by the way, so make sure everyone takes a look at these comments. I believe that Guns of August exhibits truth in titles. Very true. Very true. All right. So, well, a lot of the things I've read recently, and I forgot to grab my Kindle. Yeah. Well, no, they're on ebook, and a lot of them are, yeah, maybe I can't show them just yet, but let me show you books I'm working on right now. Let's see here. I'm doing a buddy read right now with Patrice, and we are reading this massive biography on Ralph Ellison by Arnold Rampersad. I got a used copy because it's hard to find this in hardcover, so I had to get like a beat up copy, but I wanted it in hardcover. I just did. You know how it is, right?
It looks like it's in too bad a shape.
Yeah, not too bad. It's got the nice deckle edges. I might try to put like those Mylar covers on the jacket. But we're doing a buddy read on Ralph Ellison. I wanted to learn more about him. He wrote Invisible Man. Oh yeah, there's a big rip right there.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah. But yeah, he wrote Invisible Man and Juneteenth. But it's just just talks about his life, his writing inspirations, and we're still in we're about 100 pages in. So we had kind of a delay getting started on this one. So that's another one that I'm reading in progress. I'll pull up my Goodreads so I can remember. I can tell you what I've also read.
While you're doing that, I'll talk about Patrice and I's current read right at the moment.
Here, let me zoom out again so you
can. Liar, Temptress, Soldier, Spy by Karen Abbott, and all about 4 women in the Civil War who served in the war in various ways. Talks about, look at the back here so I don't miss somebody, Belle Boyd, Rose Greenhow, Elizabeth Van Loo, and Emma Edmonds, who served in the Union Army as Frank Thompson.
Yes.
And very, very good book. The author does a fabulous job in her storytelling, and it does not read like nonfiction. It reads like, a novel.
I love that.
It's good stuff. Good stuff. And I've heard of all 4 of the people, but I did not know, like I knew quite a bit about Rose Greenhow, but didn't know as much about the other 3. And so this has been good. I'm going to be able to, use some of this stuff in my classroom when I'm talking about stuff.
That's outstanding. I had read about the women who fought, who disguised themselves as men to fight in the Civil War, which to me has always been such an intriguing story.
I always thought it was, when you sit in close confinements with people, you build real close relationships. And I always kind of wondered about, if you're a woman serving in that, or, where's the boundaries become, you know what I mean? Versus when you start to build those close relationships, taking a liking to people and stuff like that. And that was kind of Emma Edmonds' story when she was serving as Frank Thompson. She started falling in love with a couple of these guys that she was serving with. And I found that was kind of interesting. And then for her to come out in the open with them that, oh yeah, by the way, I'm not a dude. I'm a woman. Surprise.
If you were wondering, wow, hey, I've got some strange feelings going on over here. It's like,
yeah, it was.
There's a reason.
Yeah, it was tackling some interesting issues. Okay, so Ann Gibson said reading the biography of Mark Twain. Yes. Now tomorrow is Father's Day, and that is my Father's Day gift.
You lucky you.
Yes. We were at where were we? Sam's Club a couple of weeks back, and I said, Amber, this would be a pretty good Father's Day gift if you want to do this and do it well. Yeah. So yeah, she got that for me, so I get that tomorrow. So I'm excited about that.
That's fantastic.
Yep.
I do want to get it. I just don't know how soon I can get to reading it, but
well, I don't know that I'll get it done before summer. I don't know if I'll get it started before summer.
Yeah.
Is done.
Maybe that's more of a later in the year, like a cold weather book.
Mm-hmm.
What do we got here? We got a comments. Oh, Forgotten Warriors: A History of Women on the Front Line by Sarah Percy. Thank you, Tony. Yeah, I love. After the live stream's over, I look up all these books that our viewers are chatting about, and this is where I get a lot of my recommendations from. And I go to like thrift books. I try to find these titles.
Mm-hmm.
That's the fun part of being such a being little bookworms that we are.
Yep.
Let me see here. I'm gonna take a look at my oh, where's that extra copy? Oh shoot. Okay, well I guess I don't need to show you let me see if I can pull up the jacket here. Okay, this is kind of a I read a lot of nonfiction too. I mean, it's history. And I wrote a review of this for Shelf Awareness, but I don't know if you can see this. Okay, well, it's called High Desert Blood.
Mm-hmm.
The 1980 New Mexico prison riot and the tragedy of the Williams brothers by Andrew Brennenstuhl.
Interesting.
Yes. I don't know how many of you, well, I was 8 when that riot happened.
What month was it?
Okay. Oh, okay. It was in February.
Yeah, I wasn't around yet.
You weren't around yet. Oh my gosh.
Would have been, not to be too, that would have been around the time I was being conceived.
Okay. Well, this was a big deal, and I'm always interested in watching documentaries, and for some reason, something about like incarceration in our country, like the system, I've always been interested in, and like, why does it work?
Mm-hmm.
And these are the bloody examples of when they don't work.
Mm-hmm.
And they're abusive, and they need reform. And this was a prison out in New Mexico, just outside of Santa Fe. And in 1980, I mean, it was just poorly run, understaffed. The guys who were there, the guards, they weren't following a lot of proper procedures because they were overworked and understaffed. And one night, some of the inmates got drunk off of the toilet, mm-hmm. whatever, and took over, jumped the guards, took over the place, and this massive riot ensued. But this book was it was written so beautifully. The guy who wrote it, his father grew up with one of the Williams brothers that were actually ended up there, and they weren't like violent criminals, but they found themselves thrown into this prison that just had what do you call it? Overpopulation too. It was brutal. And so he breaks it down and he ties it into the personal element with the Williams brothers. And yeah, High Desert Blood, it's coming out this month, or no, July 2nd. And hey, Bill, it's from the University of Iowa Press published this.
Oh, okay.
So nice. It's a slim little volume, like 220 pages, but it was riveting reading. Mm-hmm. Also very terrifying.
That's a constant problem in the prison systems anyway, being understaffed and requiring a lot of overtime of your employees that are there.
Yeah.
I know my daughter when she was working in the prison system, that we talked about.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder if she might be, interested in this book, because the book is not just about like the sensationalism of the event, although he goes into graphic detail, and some of the things that happen in there are, I don't know, it just will change you as a person to know that other people could do this to other people. But it's also a call for reform, like never let this happen again. Mm-hmm. And even though these people are criminals, they are still human beings. Mm-hmm. And as the people, putting out the punishment, you still have to maintain your own humanity. Mm-hmm. Don't sink to a level where you're just treating people like animals. They might have done, like really horrendous things, but because this is the result, you know. So I finished reading that, and I was just like, wow, this was really powerful stuff.
Yeah.
So that's one.
Well, it's good to know about.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. What else did I finished a Louis L'Amour, The Trail to Seven Pines for June on the Range.
Love it.
That was a good one. Let's see. Oh, okay. Let me hang on. Okay, so I don't have the book that I'm about ready to talk to. I have the sequel to it because that's what I'm reading right now. I had told you about this. It's called The 5 Wishes of Mr. Murray McBride.
Yes, I got to get it.
And it's by Joe Seipel. Oop, hang on, I'm backwards here. There we go. Joe. That is the sequel to it, The Final Wish of Mr. Murray McBride. This book was so powerful, and I struggled to get into it for the first 30, 40 pages because it starts off with the author is a magician, and he's talking about what was going on in the current time, and I was like thinking about my librarian, why in the world did you recommend me this book? Magicians are probably not up my alley, but he told me just stick with it. So I had started it pretty early, a few months ago, and then I turned it back in because I knew I wasn't going to get it done at that time. Started having stuff come up, and so I turned it in, and I went and got it when school got done. And I read from that point on, I read about 30 more pages, and I got hooked. And it's about an old man. He's 100 years old. Both of his sons are dead, just from old age.
Okay.
His wife just passed away. They were married for 80 years. Strong marriage. It's got a little bit of a baseball background to it because he was a ball player, but way back in the day. So he is at the point in life where his doctor gives him a pill that he has to take every day. If he doesn't take it, his lungs will fill up with liquid and he'll die, or with fluids, he'll die. So he's at that point. Death is right around the corner. He doesn't know whether just to give up or not. He meets a little boy who needs a heart transplant, 10 years old, and the little boy's full of piss and vinegar. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Well, not really. I'm at the library at school, but anyway, nobody's going to tell on me. Ornery. He's ornery. So Murray finds this list of 5 wishes by this little boy, 5 things he wants to do before he dies, because the boy knows he's going to die. He's right there, and he doesn't believe he's going to get the heart transplant. And so this whole story, the whole book, and it's not very long. It was 221 or 2 pages. This one's 225. It's all about trying to get those wishes. And the last day that I finished the book, I sat for the last 40 pages for about an hour crying the entire time I was reading it. It is powerful. It is one of the best books I've read in the last couple years. Wow. It's really good. The author does an awesome job of drawing you into the character, and you absolutely love the old man, and you're rooting for the boy, and it's just a really, really good book.
Wow. What would you say was like the major takeaway? Like, and it was so emotionally powerful. Like, what part of your brain did it touch? Like, I feel inspired. I feel like people are good,
Love.
Just love.
I
love it.
Hope.
And hope.
People having a reason to live. That right there is probably the main theme through the whole story, because the old man makes it his mission to try to get those 5 wishes granted, and it gives him something to live for.
I gotcha.
And then it gives hope to the boy himself. And not to spoil it, but the doctors at the end are like, there's no reason this little boy should be living. His heart pretty much gave out. It should not have been going. And I don't want to say too much because it gives away what happens in the story. Well, you could probably figure out some of it since there's a sequel.
Okay.
there's a sequel. So, the story doesn't end all bad. It's not
Well,
all good, but it's not all bad either. But
that's good.
So I've got the sequel going right now, and it's the little boy as a grown man. He got I spoiled the first book. He gets the heart transplant,
Okay.
and he's trying to grant the wish. There we go. Trying to grant the wish of this new little girl in the book.
Oh.
So I'm a little ways into it. I'm a quarter of the way through or so. So good book. Highly recommend it. Make sure you got some Kleenexes. I'm not kidding. I had to stop, take off my glasses, and wipe my eyes. I don't know how many times because I was like just all out.
Wow.
Tears flowing. It was powerful.
That's a strong recommendation. A strong recommendation. And boy, do we need more novels like that just kind of focus on love and hope.
It'll make you laugh too. There's some funny funny stuff in it.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty blunt in some.
There's some levity going on there. All right. Well, here's another one I recently finished. I'm just going to have to show you from my phone. Like I said, I forgot to bring in my larger Kindle. This is an independent novel that I just recently reviewed, and I think you might enjoy it, Bill, because baseball is kind of like the background of this story, like a story. Anyway, this is called Whiz Kid, a novel, and it says South Philly versus the Main Line, a tale from the Zibiter. And this is by Joel Burkett and David S. Burkett. And it's set in the 1950. Well, it's set in 1950, and it's all around what they called the Philadelphia Phillies in the 1950s team. They were called the Whiz Kids because they went on this huge tear. They went all the way up to like the World Series.
What, Robin Roberts?
Yes. Oh, he's mentioned in this book. Yeah. That is so funny. You would love this. So the guy who wrote it, his father, he discovered an unfinished manuscript when his father passed away. And so his father is David S. Burkett, but the writer is Joel. And it's set in 1950, and it's got it evokes that whole era. You know, he's a Jewish, the character's name is Ben Green. And he lives with his wife. They're expecting a child, and they live in the Zibiter, which is like a Jewish word for like the Jewish market on the like south side of Philly. And his father-in-law has like a notions store, like, you know, does all like alterations and trimmings and stuff like that. Anyway, it's more character driven. There's not too much action outside of, he's graduating college, but he was at Okinawa. Mm-hmm. So there is a scene where he's telling his brother what he did there to like earn his Purple Hearts. But in the background, you know, he's talking with his buddies about the Phillies, like, hey, did you hear about this one? And then there's a scene in the book where he actually bumps into Robin Roberts on the street. The character Ben Green. Mm-hmm. And so I mean, there's lots of name droppings from, you know, from that team. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of like there's like some tension in the marriage. There's like a love triangle with a student that, you know, is kind of hidden on him, and the wife's like, whoa, what's going on? But baseball kind of infuses it, you know, like his love of baseball. He made a really good the author made a really good analogy to like baseball is life. Mm-hmm. Because it doesn't, like, everything doesn't happen all at once. And I really like this analogy because it's true. You have moments within the game that you can win and lose within the game before it's even finished, and that's like life, right? So it's all about seeing the whole thing out to the very end, you know. Yeah. So it was actually a really good novel, I thought, for a first time author. I kind of enjoyed it.
Oh, good. Yeah. Like a good one.
Yeah.
Well, I can throw up another one here.
Please do.
This is one that when did I finish this?
Oh, I might have to check that.
About a week ago. I gave it a 3. It wasn't bad. 3 out of 5 on my Goodreads. Shotguns and Stagecoaches.
Ooh.
story
Yeah.
of the Wells Fargo and the men who protected it, basically.
That looks great.
And it's the story of 20 different detectives or officers that would protect the mail going back and forth. And it's just little, 20 little vignettes of each of the people.
Mhm.
And it was interesting. I read it. I wanted to get it done because of June on the Range. I thought it would kind of go with that, with the reading event.
Yes.
I gave it a 3 out of 5. If I could give it a 3.5, I'd probably do that, but you can't do 3.5 on Goodreads.
Mhm.
But it was all right. It was interesting. I don't know that it was a favorite, but it was interesting.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll keep that in mind.
Oh! I forgot. The best thing out of this is, have you ever seen the movie Christmas Story?
Yes. Oh, yes. Of course.
Yeah, he gets his Red Ryder carbon action BB gun, right?
Yep.
And he goes fighting Black Bart. The story of Black Bart is actually in here, and the when they captured him and everything.
Yeah.
That was probably the best thing I got out of this book.
Was the Black Bart connection?
I didn't know who Black Bart was, and I've watched that movie 100 different times. I love that movie. It's one of my favorite Christmas movies.
I love it.
I'm always like, is that actually a real, like, historical character, or is it something made up for the movie? And I found out it was an actual character.
Black Bart.
Black Bart.
And what did Black Bart do? Did he rob the stagecoaches, right?
Yeah, he robbed stagecoaches and trains.
Okay.
So,
all right. Well, I noticed that Brian, I'm going to pop this up again.
Okay.
Yaroslav Pelikan's 5-volume work on the development of Christian doctrine. I have that set, Brian. I have not attempted to read it yet. And there may have been tears for entirely unrelated reasons. Yes, it might be a dry read. I'm assuming. I'm trying to look up what else I've recently read, because at least I have Goodreads. It kind of tells me, keeps track. How could I forget this? I hope you won't mind if I just get up for a quick moment, everybody.
Go ahead.
I finished reading this. This is fantastic. America, America, A New History of the New World by Greg Grandin.
So is this like Columbus to today, or?
No, Spanish. Well, I mean, yeah, Columbus figures, but it kind of goes into the Spanish conquistadors.
Mm-hmm.
Goes into all of like South America, Central America, Latin America, and of course
post-Columbus. Post-Columbus.
Yes, and Columbus is he is definitely in here as far as like the the Taino people and the Hispaniola and all that kind of stuff. Wow, I reviewed this for Book Browse, and I need to share that out on my social media because it's already posted. This book is just wonderfully written, and I knew that I had recognized him, this author, from he's written some other nonfiction stuff. Empire of Necessity, Fordlandia. I think he was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize for that one. But this one talks about the dialogue between Europe and how Europe's sense of like exploration and conquest informed the conquistadors, and how one monk in particular, Bartolomé de las Casas, right? He wrote about, he was the first one to, first he kind of signed on to, we're here to, these people are, the Native Americans there and the indigenous peoples, they need conversion and all this kind of stuff. But then he witnessed the brutality, the utter evil, disgusting, it's so depraved, right? The things that they did to these people. And he was the one saying they're human beings. Hello. And God, God made them in his image. And so it kind of goes into how North America and South America, so it's like the South Americans are like, we're American too. So it kind of explores the whole definition of what it is to be American.
Mhm.
But whereas North America made it seem like, no, it's only revolving around the state, the state of the United States,
Mhm.
as a political entity, as opposed to geographical, like continents and regions. Um, and then where we branched off, where North America, Canada and the United States went more of a individualistic, capitalistic kind of approach to society, and then how like Mexico, Latin America, South America, how they developed more as a communal type of viewpoint. Like it's all about the community as a
Mhm.
society and not the individual. So there's a lot of food for thought in this book, guys, and I highly recommend it. um, it really makes you look at the opening up of the new world in a new way. And I loved it.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a couple of comments.
Let's see here. Oh, yes. Lower Than the Angels. I have that one too, Tony. Tell me how it is, because I haven't started it yet. And let me see what else we got here.
Right up above there. Library, ever used library thing?
I have not.
I have not either.
I think Johnny Keene uses library thing. He uses that to track his books.
I got a new one that I'm going to try, but I can't remember the name of it. One of our custodial staff here at school, she's got a lot of books at home, and she recommended it, and I cannot remember the name of the app to save my life. But I'm going to have to ask her again. She'll probably roll her eyes at me.
Oh my. What we got? Hi, T. Brooks. I think you're new in the chat. Happy to see you here. Debt, The First 5,000 Years by Graeber. Wow. Yeah, that's such a happy topic, debt. Just
Well, you want to know a happy topic that I have went back to reading about?
Tell me.
I don't know if you ever read these when you were a kid. I've been reading some of the kid books, because I'm reading with my daughter and stuff. And so, different books kind of pop in my head over the summer just because of reading with Katie Bell. But do you remember Gary Paulson?
Gary Paulson. Why
The
is
book
that?
Hatchet.
Hatchet.
Little boy who the plane crashes in Canada and he has to live in the wilderness by himself for, I can't remember how long, but a period of time. And then it's got a sequel called The River. Well,
Okay.
I loved those books. Those were two books that, or especially Hatchet, really Hatchet, got me really hooked back into reading in middle school. Absolutely loved it. And most middle school boys love Hatchet. It's an adventure story.
Okay.
And I thought there was only those two books. Well, I found out with a little bit of just look on the internet, a little bit of searching, there's actually 5 in the series. And so since the end of school, I read the other 3. Or I take that back. I listened to them on audio because I didn't have the physical copy. But
Okay.
Brian's Winter, Brian's Return, and then what was the other one? Brian's Hunt. And I thoroughly enjoyed those. If any of you like to read middle grade books, I guess that might even be upper elementary, depending on how you're classifying it. But Gary Paulson writes some phenomenal adventure stories for young boys that even as a grown man, they still capture my imagination. And he's just a phenomenal writer. And I think he's done a lot for young boys to get them into reading because, as a teacher, we always see, or a lot of times we see the girls are reading, and the boys, they aren't reading as much typically.
Yeah.
And so Paulson is one of those writers that brings the boys back into the reading. And so I've always had an appreciation for him. And like I said, this month I finished Brian's Hunt, and he was just going back to the wilderness as a hunter. And there's a story with a bear and everything, but really good stuff. Highly recommend it. If any of you have kids that are middle grade that you want to get them into reading, those would be some books to start with.
And what would you say would be the age range? I'm not quite sure for like middle school age. What is that for the
I'm
boys?
considering middle school for me, and my school is 6th grade through 8th grade.
Okay.
That's what our middle school setting is. But these books could probably be read by 4th and 5th graders as well.
5th graders. Just because I'm not fast on my feet with math, what is the average age of the child who would read these?
Well, you could probably go clear to like 10 to 14.
10 to 14. Okay.
Right in there. And I think he writes well enough an adult can read it and still enjoy it.
I might recommend these books for Martine's nephews, especially her younger nephew, because we have, we want them to, really kind of explore the world more through reading and at least through book recommendations that we can make, So, and that's Gary Paulson. Okay, I'll check that out. I'll see.
Oh, good writer.
See if they might be interested.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. What else have I just finished. Was it this morning? No, it was yesterday. Finished Alexander the Great and His Times by Agnes Saville. I'm not sure how to say her last name. It's
Okay.
an older biography on Alexander the Great. She I know she is, or she came across as a fan of Alexander the Great. I know not everybody likes him. I found that out as I've tried to explore and talk about.
Yes.
But anyway, I thought that the book was the last 1/3 of the book was excellent on what was going on during the times of Alexander the Great, and it gives more of a social history, and that was a really good one. And it breaks it down into like the Greek city-states and men versus women and children and their roles in society, and I thought it did a really good job with some of that stuff.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Well, those are good recommendations. I like how you've got a nice, you're kind of including younger reading too, like some YA reading.
Oh, I've got a bunch more on here because, like I said, I've been reading with my daughter. I wasn't going to mention all of them, but we've been doing some Boxcar Children, and I've been going back to, just because it's fun, I've been going back to the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew, just some of those middle grade, upper elementary, middle grade books. They're fun stories. Of course, I remember reading some of them when I was when I was young. I'm going back to the Hardy Boys, and I'm like, nobody's going to trust high school kids with national
secrets.
But I'm enjoying them for what they are. I mean,
yes.
They bring in young readers, and that's, I think, the whole point. And stories, mysteries.
Can I share the series I loved as a kid?
Sure.
I loved The Three Investigators.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that one. Who wrote that?
Yes, let me tell you. And I also like Nancy Drew, of course. The Three Investigators was a series. It was like put out by Alfred Hitchcock, Alfred Hitchcock and the Three Investigators series. So who is the author? I mean, I don't know. His name was on it, but like if you were to go to, okay, it was created by Robert Arthur Jr. Okay, so I think he might have used Alfred Hitchcock's name to help sales, but anyway, it's about these three teenage boys, and they start up their own investigative service out of like this one, the one kid's, what do you call it? Little minivan, or his uncle's minivan. I forget the actual the connections there, but there's three boys, and they have a series of cases, and that they have to solve together. And I don't know, I just love the three of them together and how they work together and how they just set up their own little independent, world outside of the adult home, because they would go into the van and be like, okay, what do we got? I would highly recommend, if you can find like an old copy or two, The Three Investigators is a fantastic series.
I'll be on the lookout.
Yeah.
I like these old series, and there's way more of them than what I actually realized, because I thought kind of the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew were kind of the top of the line. Everybody read those, but I got to looking into some of it, and I'm like, oh man, there's a whole lot more different series out there. So
There's so many.
Those are things I'm going to be looking for.
Well, let's see. And we got Tony's asking if we ever read the Willard Price Adventure series.
I have not.
Catching Animals for a Zoo. I don't know, but we're going to be adding it to our list to look up, aren't we?
I am writing it down right now.
Yeah. Oh, yes, we have someone in the chat who knows. Yes, Jupiter. He was one of the characters in The Three Investigators. He lived with his uncle who ran a junkyard. They had a camper buried in the junk that they used as their headquarters. Thank you, Nivern. Thank you. Yes. It was just a fantastic. I need to go back and try to find some copies because it will take me back to my girlhood when I was just like, ooh, I want to do something like that. Yes, right. Jupiter.
Well, let's see here. I'll tell you about another buddy read I'm doing.
Yes, do it.
I don't know if you've ever read this one, but The Peaceable Kingdom.
No, Jan de Hartog.
Yes. Here at the high school, our English teacher uses a chapter out of this and teaches it in her class. And my daughter, when she was going through her class, absolutely loved it. My oldest daughter, Crimson. Mm-hmm. And she talks about it all the time. I've never read it. And so I had asked her last time she was at the house, well, hey, do you summer's coming. I've got time. Do you want to try to do a buddy read together? And she was talking about reading this again. So I went to the English teacher and said, do you have an extra copy I can borrow? Because I don't have the book. And she let me borrow her copy. And we've been going, we're not like super far into it because she's been having a lot of overtime at work and stuff. So we haven't been getting super far into it, but what are we, 20% through or so? And enjoying the book. It's all set in England, 1652. And give me a second. Fox. The Quakers. I forget the main character's name. That's great. George Fox. Thank you. George, it's all about George Fox and starting getting the Quaker movement going in England. And then it looked like I looked ahead at some of the chapters. It's going to bring it into Pennsylvania into the next. It's going to be basically covering about 100 years of history.
I see. Yeah. Is George Fox the guy who did the Fox's Book of Martyrs?
Maybe.
I don't know if it was the right time frame or not, but
I'm not sure. It could be. Very well could be.
Fox's Book of Martyrs. Yeah. I don't know.
But it's interesting book. And
I'm going to check that one out too.
And it's been fun. I've been giving my daughter a hard time because there's a lot of the history stuff in it. It's a really good historical fiction. And a lot of the historical stuff she doesn't know. And I'm like, well, honey, you probably ought to go read about Oliver Cromwell so that you understand what they're referencing here. And our funny one was they were using the word courtesan, and she did not know what that word meant.
Oh, courtesan, yes.
it totally changed the context of the entire passage because she thought it was just two people courting.
Oh, my gosh.
And I'm like, no, honey, that's not exactly what it means.
It's kind of a delicate.
If she watches this,
delicate conversation.
Yeah, so she looked it up and was like, "Oh, okay."
Enough said. Oh my gosh. Well, let me show you a book I'm about to finish today. And the fun thing about this is I'm actually recording an interview tomorrow morning with the author.
Oh, cool.
That'll be coming to the channel real soon. This is The Tale of the English Templar by Helena P. Schroeder. And I realized I was pronouncing it incorrectly because it's the German pronunciation, Schroeder, not Schrader. Mm-hmm. This is one of her earlier books. I've interviewed her on the channel before for the books that she was writing on the Berlin Airlift trilogy. So this is one of her earlier ones. And I discovered, too, that she's written a lot of books around the Crusaders and the Crusader states and stuff like this. I'm really enjoying this. And I'm about I'm close to finishing it today, and which is good, just in time for the interview tomorrow. It's about Sir Percy. Now these are fictional characters, except for some of the actual historical characters, like the leader of the Templars, Jacques de Molay. There's actual historical characters in here, but she's got a young Benedictine novitiate, Felice, who's considering, like, should I become a nun? Her grandfather is a Templar, or was going to be a Templar at one time. But anyway, she discovers this, and this is during the Inquisition. And I don't know if you know how much you know about Templar history, Bill. A little bit. Okay. Well,
it's probably smaller than that.
Well, they were a big organized religious order that, went to war for the Pope and, would fight for the faith and go on crusades and all this kind of stuff. But at some point, the King of France got hold of the Pope and was just like, they started making up these heinous charges against the Templars. Mm-hmm. Hi, Joseph. And they did. Oh, I know what it was. They wanted their money. That's what it was, because the Templars had amassed a lot of wealth. And so at some point, the King of France and the Pope were just like, let's take them down. Mm-hmm. And they made up all these false accusations and they would torture these guys. And so the scenes of torture in here are like, but it was real. And so it kind of goes into the Inquisition against them, and then how this one knight, Percy de Lacy, he was an English Templar, hence the title. How he's captured, tortured, he's forced to confess to things that broke his oath, and because the pain was just, you can't blame the guy, right? And then Felice finds him on the side of the road along with her grandfather, and they decide to hide him, and so he recovers. And then it's about how they try to rescue other Templars who are in dungeons, and then go to this. And where I'm at now is like they're getting ready to go to the trial, and they're going to be defending themselves against these accusations, the Free Templars. So I really enjoy it, and I don't know why Helena does not have a mainline publisher, because these are great books. These are fantastic fiction. Mm-hmm. So she's got her own. Cross Seas Press is the imprint. But I love her books on the Berlin Airlift. She's a great writer. She mm-hmm. tells a great story. So I'm just loving this book and loving her work in general.
Well, sounds good.
Yeah.
Most of my Templar knowledge comes from, I don't remember if you ever watched the History Channel. They had a show on there, and I'm trying to remember what it was even called, but it was all about the Templars. Mm-hmm. And that's where I was Googling as I was watching to figure out what was true versus not true.
Right.
But that's where I got my knowledge. That's not in my wheelhouse, needless to say.
Well, when I post the interview, check it out, because one of the things I want to ask her is, tell me about your sources. I want to know how you did the research for this, and mm-hmm. what books would you recommend people read for a factual account and not like overly sensationalized, So I'm going to be actually just trying to get from the horse's mouth, mm-hmm. what books are reliable on that topic. So.
Yeah. All right. Well,
you're next.
I am next. Well, you want some? How about I do my last current read, and then I will talk about. Well, I guess these other four are current reads, but they're all World War II. I usually don't put like the same genre. I don't read multiple books on the same genre at the same time. I usually wait so I don't confuse them. But somehow I've got 4 World War IIs going.
Okay.
But before I talk about that one. Another June on the Range.
Nice.
Plain Gray. Now, the unfortunate thing about this book is, see if I can.
Uh-oh. It's falling apart.
I am literally taking it, holding one page, and then putting it on the side and pulling up the next age. No, but it's really cool. Let me hang on a second.
We need to get you a newer copy.
Yeah. So I'm going to actually frame it for my library.
I think that's a good call.
Yeah, it's got a wraparound cover, and I just thought it was kind of cool.
That is cool.
So I'm going to try to frame that, and that's a little bit of fun. I probably prefer Louis L'Amour to Zane Grey. Zane Grey's a little slower paced, a little drier.
Different writing style, because it was an earlier age.
Yeah,
with that more formal.
Well, that's the age I struggle with.
Mm-hmm.
I have found that, and I know he's not 1800s, but he's coming out of that time period. It's that early 1900s, but the 1800s, I struggle with the writing style.
Yeah,
I have found that it's almost a waste of time to try those books just because I struggle so much with them. But he's coming out of that time period, and I don't like him as much as Louis L'Amour.
I agree. Again, thank you for these recommendations, everybody. Loving it. And hi, David.
Hello, David.
Thank you so much. That's so kind of you. We just love hearing from you guys. A note on like Zane Grey versus Louis L'Amour. I've got all my Louis L'Amours right over here. I'm looking right at them. I also read a lot of Zane Grey when I was growing up, and he didn't really compare to Louis just because, like you said, the writing was kind of funky. And I also found like Riders of the Purple Sage, it was like there was this weird undertone of, I don't want to say bias, but he really kind of used Mormons in his stories a lot as like bad guys, like uber bad guys. I think it's because of the time. Okay, I'm going off on a weird tangent, but it serves this purpose. Like I recently discovered some of my great grandfather's papers when he immigrated to America. And on the intention to become a citizen, it says, I do not believe in polygamy. That's like one of the main things that people wanted to know about you before. It says, I am not an anarchist and I do not practice or believe in polygamy. And so I'm like, this is fascinating. Like this document was such a time capsule, like back in 1920. And that's around the time that Zane Grey was writing these books, kind of pointing out the Mormons. And because in the Riders of the Purple Sage, they're out there. I think it was set in Utah, actually, or the Four Corners. I forget. But anyway, yeah, there was just this weird undercurrent of like suggested scandal, with the Mormons. So I just thought I'd mention that.
It's interesting when you read those census records, you can learn a lot about what is going on in American history based on those questions when you're reading those census records. I always found that kind of interesting when I was doing family history research.
Yep. It's fascinating. And Z, I have picked it. Well, I have the advanced reader copy of The Gunfighters, How Texas Made the Wild West. And like you, I haven't had time to read it yet. I still hope. I'm taking off a couple days for my birthday, which is at the end of this month. So I still would like to squeeze in something for June on the Range. And so I'm either going to start reading The Gunfighters, and I might also pick up a Louis L'Amour just because I haven't read one in forever. So, all right. Let me see. Is it my turn? Oh, Tony says the first Sherlock Holmes novel, A Study in Scarlet, has a couple of dodgy Mormons at its center. Fantastic. Good to know. Well, okay. You know what? I'm going to move. I have read a lot of other things, but they're not. I'll just mention real quick. This one is a bestseller right now. This is historical fiction. This is The Listeners by Maggie Stiefvater. This was a great read. And I read and reviewed this for this new collaboration I'm doing with this group called History Through Fiction. and I'll be doing book reviews for them about every month or so, as part of their historical readers club. And this was the first one I've done with them. The Listeners is great. It is set during World War II in West Virginia, and it's about this hotel, the Avalon Spa and Hotel, and this plucky general manager who works there, and they have to, and this is based on a true story, that right after Pearl Harbor, there were a lot of diplomats, Axis diplomats, that were like, obviously like embassy officials and stuff like that, who hadn't gotten out of America yet. And they needed a place to house them, to get them away, quarantine these folks, and then get the paperwork ready and exchange them with American embassy officials overseas who were being held. So, you know what I mean? So they could do the exchange. Well, they were being put up at this palatial spa over these miracle spring waters in West Virginia. And so it kind of goes into, is there a spy? What's going on? An FBI guy comes out, and he's like a veteran of the coal mines. And he kind of recognizes in the general manager, but why am I blanking on her name right now? Probably because I'm live and online. June Hudson. And then Tucker is the FBI guy. Anyway, they're trying to, maintain everyone there, but then there's something kind of almost like, I don't want to say supernatural, but there's something about the water. It's like she has a connection with the spring water. And whenever they call if the water's turning, it means bad things are going to happen. And I think later on in the novel, I don't want to spoil anything, but it just kind of talks about like the history of that area and the floods that they had and things like that. But it was so well written and so enjoyable. So I really enjoyed The Listeners by Maggie Stiefvater.
The Listeners, Maggie, spell her last name.
Oh, yeah. STIEFVATER.
TERAR.
TER. So,
okay. Thank you.
Yeah. I think it's made the rounds. I don't know if Oprah's picked this book already, but it's like a mega bestseller right now. So that was historical fiction I read recently that I highly recommend as well. And then just real quick, I'm just going to mention this other book that I've read, and I wrote a review for Washington Independent Review of Books, and this is Strangers in the Land by Michael Luo, or Lau. It's Exclusion, Belonging, and the Epic Story of the Chinese in America. And in a sense, it is some Western history here, because it talks about the Chinese that came over to help build the railroad, worked out in the gold mines in California. And then it also talks about some of the Chinese experiences in the East Coast. But it's an eye-opener, because I didn't realize how bad the racism was against Chinese immigrants.
Oh, it's terrible.
Horrible. Mm-hmm. And like that, it talked about the Chinese Exclusion Act. Mm-hmm. But then there were like good people out in those, because people at the time were like, they thought the Chinese were coming to take their jobs and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, a lot of this stuff is like you hear from today almost, it's just different groups, but it's still the same argument. But they would run these people out of town, these poor folks, and it was horrible. And so I don't know. I'm just it was just sobering, and I was like, my Lord, we've had a lot of dark patches in our history for sure.
So let me ask you: have you read Iris Chang's book on the Chinese immigration?
I have one of her books, but it's about, what is that? The Rape of Nanking. Yes, I have that one right over there. Okay.
Well, I got like 2 copies of the one on Chinese immigration. I haven't read it yet. I plan to after reading this, because phenomenal writer. But so I'll bring this one in next.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
I didn't know if you'd read that one before, the one on the immigration.
no, but I do want to read. I do have her work right over there on the shelf over there, but I should read her book on the immigration because she was a wonderful writer. And as you know, the story with her writing of this book, it eventually led to her death.
Oh, I
Yeah.
did not know that.
She committed suicide
Oh,
because of the things that
okay.
yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was going to get into just a little bit because oh my.
it's horrible. It,
Yeah.
I
You don't
think
want
she
to
had
get
already,
this.
yeah, she had already struggled, I think, with some, just some mental health issues. But the writing of that book, and I've read other books that have talked about her life, and
Mhm.
just that one really
There she is.
messed her up and gutted her. Yeah, it's a damn shame, but so I have to be ready to read that book. I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready to read that.
Oh yeah, it's something that's it's like reading Holocaust type stuff. I mean,
Yeah,
you got to be in the right frame of mind to deal with the stuff.
yeah.
But this is one of them. I'm a third of the way through, maybe 40% of the way through, something like that.
Mhm.
I've been going through this one a chapter each morning, and it's we talk about it at school in the lead up to World War II, and we do a DBQ lesson over Nanking. We don't call it the rape of Nanking. I would probably get in some trouble
Yeah.
with a title like that, but it does talk about in our lesson, the death and destruction when the Japanese rolled through. But
Mhm.
this, oh my, the details that she puts into this book on the massacres, you better be in the right mindset because it's going to make you want to vomit some of the
Right.
stuff that happens. And it's to men and women, of course. With the title, she's going to really hit on that part of it. And the chapter this morning was pretty sobering.
Oh,
It
man.
I don't know. I don't even know what to say about it. It's pretty powerful stuff on what happened when the Japanese invaded China,
Yeah.
and in the mid 30s and heading towards World War II.
Yep.
If you want some, I say good writing. The story is very sad, but she did a phenomenal job putting it together, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. So
Yeah.
that's one of them I'm going through. Again, don't really want to talk a ton about it just because it's
The subject matter, I get it.
matters.
It's tough, but I will check out her book on immigration, though, the Chinese immigration.
Yeah, if you need a copy, let me know. I have two.
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
I
We'll do a
just
book exchange. I've got a box of books I still need to send you.
um, another one I'm reading on because these last few books are all World War II stuff. In the Garden of Beasts by Eric Larson, and
Great Eric Larson.
yes, I've been on like an Eric Larson kick over the last few months. I've read, I think I'm read the majority of them. I'll have to go and like make a checklist, but this is one of the last ones that I've got that I need to get read. I think I may have one more, but anyway, it's about an American diplomat moving over to Berlin and what he experiences in Hitler-controlled Germany. And
Mm-hmm.
this morning it was talking about in a couple of different instances walking down the street and you didn't give the Heil Hitler salute and receiving a beat down from all the soldiers, even though being an American, you weren't supposed to have to do that, but they didn't really care. They beat you down anyway. You may get an apology, but it didn't really mean much. So,
oh boy.
And it's just getting into I'm not real far, I'm a third of the way through, but it's just talking about the experiences of this family living in the middle of Berlin and what it was like.
Mm-hmm.
And the mind control that Hitler put on all these people, the Nazi party put on all these people.
It's scary, isn't it?
Yeah, it's extremely scary. That's all I'm going to say about that.
I know. I feel what you're putting out there. I enjoy his work too. Laverne, I love Dead Wake on the Lusitania was amazing.
I think that was no, that was not that was my first one. That was my first.
And I think we've got a couple of his other ones on audiobooks, and I think that In the Garden is one of them. I think Devil in the White City is another.
I went through that one. I didn't like that one as much. It wasn't. I like the other topics better.
Yeah,
but it was interesting.
For sure. Let's see. Well, I'm going to move into books that I'm currently reading or about to start. Is that okay? Or
Oh yeah, because that's what I'm doing right now.
okay, and let me know when you need to stop. So
okay, my stop time is 4:00. No later than that.
Okay.
I'm not saying we have to go that long, but
yeah,
I forgot to tell you that ahead of time.
No worries. No worries. All right. So this one's kind of different from, I guess, well, it's history. It's recent history, and I haven't read this author's, the first book about it, but this is coming out in July. This is The Mission, the CIA in the 21st Century by Tim, I'm going to say Weiner or Wiener. You giggle.
You know which one I think it should be. Just for the
Bill, you make me laugh. Tim Weiner Wiener.
Hey, I teach middle school. You can't get away with names like that.
Right.
Frank's right up there with a hairy butts. You know what I mean?
Man, we need to laugh. I tell you what. So this is a successor to his first book, which I haven't read, which is Legacy of Ashes. But this one covers the 20s. Obviously, it's in the 21st century, so it covers the CIA, the history of it, from what they did from like 9/11 through the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq to today's battles with Russia and China, and with the president of the United States. So, I just started reading this. I'm about 70 pages in. I'm going to be doing a lot of reading of this weekend. I plan to review this one for shelf awareness, I believe. So, next time we talk, I'll have finished it and I can give you guys more info on that. The other book I need to power read because I really want to get this also reviewed. I've shown this to you guys before, The Aviator and the Showman. Amelia Earhart, George Putnam, and the Marriage That Made an American Icon. This is a book coming out July 15th. And as I've mentioned before, Amelia Earhart has been one of my heroes forever. I still look up to this woman and what she achieved and what she didn't, but whatever. Just her life of courage, and I love her. I love Amelia Earhart. So I was like, if there's a new book on her, I'm reading it. And this is about their marriage, which I've always been very curious about, because he was the consummate promoter. I just wanted, and I know that she had like a little bit of an affair with, what was it? The Vidal guy. Was it Gore Vidal? Not Gore. Wait. It was a Vidal, but it wasn't the writer from the, the guy who wrote Lincoln and all those other novels. Or it was no, it wasn't Vidal. It was Gore. Anyway, he was the one of the relatives from the Gore family, like Al Gore and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I'm sure I have it in here somewhere, but so I haven't started it just yet, but it's going to go into some detail. I've read the intro and I'm ready to go. So I'm going to hope to power through that this week and have a review hopefully done by the end of next week. Okay. So, but that looks like a good one.
Well, she was from Atchison, Kansas.
That's right.
Yeah, my sister lives there, and we used to do Amelia Earhart Days festival, and they'd have a huge fireworks display blowout, and I don't want to know how many thousands and thousands of dollars they spent on fireworks.
Yeah.
But it was always a lot of fun. I don't know if they still do that or not. I imagine they do. We haven't went for years.
Mm-hmm.
We used to, been 20 years ago probably since we went. But that was a lot of fun.
Well, cool.
Yeah,
I have to get out there sometime to check that out.
Yeah, her birthplace overlooks the Missouri River, and we were looking to buy a house when I was working in Weston, and we went over to Atchison because they had houses for sale. So we were up there on that bluff where her house is, looking at a house. So kind of cool. Yeah.
Yep. Well, she's an American icon as far as I'm concerned. So.
All right. Well, you want me to do a?
Yeah.
All right. So I just got into. I'm like 4 or 5 chapters in. American Warlords: How Roosevelt's High Command Led America to Victory in World War II by Jonathan W. Jordan.
That looks great. Is that an older book or recent?
This is. Hang on a minute. It is a 2016. So not terribly old, but not new either. But I'm enjoying that. It's going through the first few chapters have been, kind of background on each of the individuals, like we did Marshall, and we did some background on Roosevelt himself and Morgenthau, and just some of these, or not Morgenthau, Henry Stimson, excuse me. I was going through these different people that were part of the high command and making the decisions, and very, very interesting. I loved the chapter on Marshall. Sorry,
okay,
moving around there.
There you go.
Yeah, I love that chapter on him, just kind of talking about the man himself and what it was like to work with him, and making you feel like you know him.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to definitely help as we read through the book. And it was good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, I'm always intrigued by Marshall. I want to read more. I've got several books on him, either as part of either he's part of a panoply of other people that are being discussed, or that big biography from a few years ago that I think David Rohl wrote, George Marshall biography, but also ones that discuss him, and then China, whether it was Stilwell in China, and then we got Marshall and his footprint there. So there's a lot of books about Marshall that I want to dig into. So that's a good recommendation. I hadn't seen that one.
Yeah, that one. Where did I buy that? There was a store in the mall that sold a little bit of everything. I can't think of what the name of it was, but it closed. And they used to have this little couple of shelves of, they'll have, book marked down books, they were new, but they'd have a remainder on it.
Right.
Mark. But that didn't ever bother me. And they were fairly cheap, $3, $4.
Okay.
New books. So you can't beat that.
You can't.
Yeah.
I love bargain books. You know that.
Yeah. So this is the last one I brought with me. I probably got a couple others I could talk about here in a little bit, but the last one I brought with me is went back to Max Hastings, Retribution, and it's all about the Battle of Japan for Japan.
Nice.
1944, 45, and so with all of these books, there's a lot of overlap, back and forth, and this whole thing on Japan is just open. I mean, I knew that they were pretty ruthless out in the Pacific, but now I'm getting a better picture of it.
Yeah.
And, of course, I'm not real far in this one. A quarter of the way through, third of the way through, but real good. Talking about let's see. This morning was is it Layette Golf? Layette, I can't say it.
Lady Golf?
Yes, Lady Golf. That was what I was reading about this morning.
Okay.
So yeah. Anyway, Max Hastings, good stuff.
Nice. Yeah, he's a solid go-to. For sure.
Yes, I enjoyed the World War I book we did, and
yep.
I've got 1 or 2 more of his World War II. I'd like to get all of his stuff.
Yeah, me too. I'm kind of slowly collecting all of his books. The most recent one of his I read outside of the buddy read that we did was his book on the Cuban Missile Crisis, which was great. I highly recommend that one. I have Retribution. In fact, it's on my shelf. I just have not. That's one I haven't gotten to yet. But I'm going to put another book on everyone's radar. I'm just starting to read. This book came out just a few days ago, actually, June 10th. So it came out on Tuesday from Agate Publishing, but it sounds really intriguing. This is Crucibles. Subtitle is How Formidable Rites of Passage Shape the World's Most Elite Organizations. James R. McNeil and J. Eric Smith. Let's see here. So this one is this one intrigued me. It says, what do ancient Shaolin monks, NASA astronauts, and the mafia have in common? And what can modern leaders learn from the rites of passage that shape the members of the world's most formidable organizations? So it kind of talks about, it explores the initiation rituals of 14 elite groups, both past and present, that have shaped civilizations, fortified leaders, and made lasting impacts on culture and power dynamics across time. Isn't that interesting? Let's see, from the grueling physical trials of traditional warrior castes to the intellectual challenges faced by members of secret societies, the book delves deep into the tests such groups designed to separate aspirants from the elite. So to me, that like, I know they're going to have a chapter on Navy SEALs. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like these are the type of things I want to read about. It's like, yes, what is that initiation, that rite of passage? They have chapters here on the Swiss Guard, for example, the Gurkhas, let's see, French Foreign Legion. And the Marines, We Make Marines, Chapter 1, Boot Camp at Paris Island. So that kind of stuff. It's just like, yeah, of course, the U.S. astronauts program. So Japan's special attack units, a chapter on the mafia. So this is just like a wide-ranging, I like kind of not novels, but histories that kind of cover a broad range of different, but ties it together with that one theme.
Mm-hmm.
So
at the end, are they going to take different areas around the world and see how they are common?
I think that'll happen through, yes. Either he'll do that in the, or they'll do it probably in the epilogue, but I'm guessing that throughout the book, they're making it kind of clear where the similarities are and where they differ. Yeah. So that one I'm going to be starting, and then I'll show you one more real quick. This is another new book coming out. This actually came out June 3rd, but I'm really fascinated by this. It's nonfiction. It's not so much like history as, like, everyone's heard of what was the thing that just happened with the Titanic? The Titan. You remember that implosion of that submersible that went down to the Titan, and it was like the guy's privately built submersible. I've always been intrigued by any type of book about submarines, because these are like things that I'm like, I could not imagine putting myself in these positions. But you're not going to find me in a submersible going down to the Titanic floor bed. I'm not doing that.
You won't find me there.
You won't find me there. But this is a new book called Submersed: Wonder, Obsession, and Murder in the World of Amateur Submarines. Isn't that fantastic? By Matthew Gavin Frank. And it's kind of like reportage journalism. But it kind of follows I've been reading and underlining. He kind of takes a psychological approach, it's like the first sentence in his prologue jumped out at me because I feel the exact same way. I underlined it. For as long as I can remember, I've been afraid of the ocean. That's me. And he kind of goes into it like, I just have this weird obsession, fixation, like what drives people to do things that on a common sense level, it's like, what are you doing? Like with that Titan submersible, it was like this carbon frame based thing. It didn't live up to any type of, it wasn't, didn't have the safety precautions or specifications that experts in the field are like, this was not up to code. Why was this doing that? But you have these private owners and private entities.
Money.
Yeah, they're just going out to do it and make money, and people die as a result. But then it also covers. There was a horrible story from, I think, Sweden or Norway. But a journalist went to go interview this guy who had his own private submarine. He ended up killing her inside the submarine, and we don't know why. Or maybe I haven't looked at it, but he's going to go into that story as well. Like, what was with this guy? First, he had an obsession about building his own private submarines, and then was something off about him. And I think he's trying to make these these connections of like, you've got to be a certain type of
person.
First of all, to want to do stuff like this, and then maybe you're a little bit unhinged as well. You know,
how far back does it go?
Oh,
are you talking early submarine work or just?
Oh no, because he's talking about amateur submarines, right? He's going into the beguiling subculture of homemade submersible obsessives. Men and women, but mostly men, who are so compelled to sink into the deep sea that they become amateur submarine builders. And they do so at great personal risk. Let me see. Okay, no, he actually does go back in history. Like I said, I've read the intro. So he goes back to the diving bells of Aristotle and Alexander the Great. Isn't that fantastic? Oh yeah, to the Confederates and the Hunley. I knew they would have to talk about the Hunley. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I didn't know if they, in the American Revolution, that really amateur one they had, and I'm trying to think of the name of it, but it was basically a barrel with
the little
bicycle pedal.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, he will cover that then. So that's going to be cool. So that'll have some element of history, and then it goes up to present day. But yeah, I want to kind of work on this for the next few weeks and try to finish it up over my birthday. But this kind of stuff intrigues me, So
Yep.
There.
Well, let's see. I do want to highlight one other book. I don't have it with me. I got this finished at the end of May, and it was called Hidden Pictures by Jason Rukulak, Rukulak. Rukulak. I might be the name there, but really, really good thriller. And it's about a young gal who was having issues with drugs and was in recovery. And she gets a job has been sober for 16 months, 15 months, something like that. And she gets a job as a live-in babysitter, basically, for rich parents. And and the only reason I'm mentioning this, you were talking about a supernatural part of your story. There's a supernatural part in this story, and the parents are trying to protect this child, and they're trying to blame the girl for certain things that are going on. And it's actually the spirit of a dead person reaching back to warn them about certain stuff. And very, very, very interesting. And it's got a twist at the end that maybe you see, maybe you don't. I guess it probably depends on how much you get tied into the story, but it was one that was out in the like Walmart and Target on the shelves for a long time. I think it was last year, maybe 2 years ago, but highly recommended. I thought it was a pretty good little read.
Well, what was the title again?
Hidden Pictures.
Hidden Pictures. Okay.
Yep, and the child in the story is drawing pictures, and they have the pictures throughout the story, and some of them are very, very detailed and graphic.
Oh,
and
wow.
It's not a tough read by any means. You'll fly through it, but it was entertaining.
Okay, and what was the author's name again?
Jason, and I'll spell it Rekulak.
Okay, I see it now. Oh yeah, the cover is very.
Yeah, it was a cover buy is what it was. I found it at Dollar Tree or $1.25 Tree.
Okay. Yeah.
I got it for like dirt cheap. It's kind of like Steve Donahue says, when it's that cheap, you can afford to take the chance.
That's right.
So I took a chance because of the cover. It was worth it.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes I like to read those too. Those little thrillers and kind of.
It's like a space out book, basically.
Yeah, well, you need that during the summer, right?
Well, we just got done with school, so that was one of the first ones I went into.
You're going to blow off some steam.
Yep.
Well, this is going to be my blow off steam book. I haven't started it yet, but I was really happy to get a copy of this because I raved about this guy's thriller, his first debut thriller back a year or two ago. This guy's an active duty policeman, but he is a hell of a writer. He wrote a book called The Ascent about people trying to survive. And here we go. I'm going to bring it back around to that prison riot book that I read earlier. There's a prison riot, and there's an ex-cop who's there in jail because he was put there by a crooked cop. And then the governor's daughter's there doing research for her criminality, her criminal law class or something, when everything goes wrong. Like a riot happens, the power breaks down at the command center. And the only way to get out of this, they can't get out. The only way out is to get to the roof of this maximum security. And each floor, it gets progressively, like one floor for like, the sexual offenders, stuff like this. Next floor for like murderers. Next floor for the dangerously mentally ill and violent. So it's like every floor gets worse and worse and worse. And he's trying to like guide them through it and fight their way through. It was a fantastic read. I think you might really like it, Bill. But anyway, he's got a new book in the series, because I was like, please tell me you're writing, because I wrote a review for The Ascent. And I said to the author on social media, I'm like, please tell me you're writing another one. And he is. And he got a brand new one. This one's called Hard Town. And the author is Adam Plantinga. I'll hold that up for you to write it down.
Got it.
But he returns his character that I love so much. And it's, and of course I love it too, because he's an ex-Detroit cop. And you know me, Detroit, hello, Detroit Lions, baby, Detroit Tigers. So it brought up a lot of like Detroit things that, I know you're a KC guy. We're sitting at the top of all of the teams.
Yeah, we're sitting at the top of the dung pile. But anyway.
Oh my gosh. All right. So it's another novel where I don't want to read too much because I don't want to like give it away or anything, and I don't want to ruin my surprise. But and this time he's heading out to a desert town in Arizona. Finds himself caught up in unraveling secrets that want to stay hidden and questioning his own moral compass. So this writer is great. He writes from a cop's perspective, but yet he's not like one of those, he gets the moral complexities and the ambiguities, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I highly recommend Adam Plantinga, and start with The Ascent, because that is a pulse pounding. I'm surprised it hasn't been made into a movie yet, frankly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Hard Town is going to be my birthday read for myself. I'm going to.
Good.
Yes.
You always got to have one of those.
You got to have one of those. Yep.
Yeah. Laverne, you said, Hidden Pictures. It was creepy. You are exactly right. It was creepy.
Okay.
There's points where your hair stands up just a little bit. Of course, I don't read books like that normally, so maybe my hair stands up on my arms more than everybody else's. But it was a good read. So anyway,
yeah. Well, all right. Let's see where we at. We're at 235 or 335 where you're at. Okay. So there's a bunch of historical fiction books that I have to read by the end of the month. I'll just zoom through them really quick. I'm a reviews editor at the Historical Novel Society, or for their review magazine, which is the Historical Novels Review. And so I'll be reading some books that are, okay, this one is probably going to be the most well-known to maybe some of you viewers. I have not read this author yet, but I keep meaning to, because I think he writes from like a Native American. I think he's Native American, actually. Yes, he is. Stephen Graham Jones. He wrote The Only Good Indians, and he's written some scary novels. This looks like it. And this actually might fit in with a June on the Range, but with some supernatural stuff. This is his new novel, The Buffalo Hunter.
Okay.
By Stephen Graham Jones. This copy is wild. It's got this bright red and like, I don't know what you call that. It's the dusting on the pages, but it's a chilling historical novel set in the nascent days of the state of Montana, following a Blackfeet Indian named Goodstab as he haunts the fields of the Blackfeet Nation looking for justice. So let's see. It begins when a diary written in 1912 by a Lutheran pastor is discovered within a wall in 2012. What is unveiled is a slow massacre, a nearly forgotten chain of events that goes back to 217 Blackfeet dead in the snow. And this is an American Indian revenge story captured in the vivid voices of the time. But yeah, he's like the new voice of like literary horror. But the Buffalo Hunter. So, oh, Anne, thank you. So you've read Buffalo Hunter. That is great. I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed it, because I can't wait to start it. Cool. And then this one, I volunteer to read this because I've always been, we were talking about Columbus earlier, and I was mentioning the Taino people of Hispaniola. Let me see. Someone else had a great comment about, oh yes, the Final Girl books. Yes, My Heart is a Chainsaw or something like that. I've seen those. I keep debating on whether to pick those up. So this is a novel called Paradise Once by Olive Senior. And this is about the Taino people of the Caribbean, whose culture was virtually destroyed within 2 generations of their discovery by Christopher Columbus in 1492. So it's about some of these survivors that escaped the massacre, 3 indigenous and 1 African runaway. So it's about the Taino people of the Caribbean, and it's set in 1513 in Cuba.
Okay.
So I'll be reading that one soon. And then this one has more of a mystery, I think, but it's set. See, our rule is the books that we review at Historical Novels Review, they have to be set. We can't review anything that is within the last 50 years, history-wise. You know what I mean? So anything up to 1970s, including 70s, we're good. But anything after that, no. So that makes sense. But this one is, I think, set shortly after. And now it won't tell me. But I think it's shortly after. Oh no, it's 1964. Here we go, and it's set in Marshall, North Carolina. This is called In the Fullness of Time by Terry Roberts. This is not coming out until August, actually, you guys. So some of these books that I review for Historical Novels Review are usually, advanced review copies. So, but it's about this guy who never wanted to be a sheriff, and he's in the fabled Madison County of North Carolina. And when he first takes office, he has to just deal with little things: drunken drivers, stolen tractors. But then there, something happens, and it's basically kind of like a mystery. But there's supposed to be a really nice love story at the heart of it too. So I'm kind of intrigued by this, and I thought I'll check this one out, In the Fullness of Time by Terry Roberts. So yeah, I've got a lot to read.
Yeah, well, here's what I did. I keep a running list on my phone. I have, the Notes app, and I'll keep track of everything I've started, and with the objective of finishing it. Anyway.
I know, right?
So I put it all to paper because my plan was to clean up my TBR, clean up that list this summer. And yeah, there's no way that's happening. But some of them that I wanted to get back to and try to get done is 1915, The Death of Innocence by Lynn McDonald on World War I.
Mm-hmm.
My Life by Bill Clinton.
Okay.
Memoir or autobiography, whatever. I can't remember which one he classified it as. Let's see. Crazy 08, How a Cast of Cranks, Rogues, Boneheads, and Magnets Created the Greatest Year in Baseball History by Kate Murphy.
Nice.
I had Todd. Oh, what is his channel from up in Michigan? Todd.
Oh yeah.
He had sent it to me.
Oh, I know I know that Todd. He boxers me a lot.
Yeah, I started it a year ago, and then I had ended up putting it down because I started it in March, and that's when school year gets to going full blast. And as we're trying to wrap things up, and I ended up putting it down. Well, I picked it back up, and I need to get going on that one. Let's see. All the Powers of Earth, The Political Life of Abraham Lincoln. I'm on the 3rd volume of that. That's one that I need to get back to.
Mm-hmm.
A third of the way through that. SPQR, I started that earlier in the year and put it down, and a quarter to a third of the way. 1177 BC.
Oh, yes.
The Year Civilization Collapsed by Eric Klein. I'm a third of the way through that. I got a really bad problem of getting about a third of the way through a book, and then life happens and I put it down.
Life happens.
Yeah, I'm not going to even read the rest of these, but you're getting the idea. I have a stack of books at home that are sitting there ready for me to pick up and get going on.
Oh, Bill, I feel you. I have it's just a stack of things that I want to get to, or I have started and I need to finish as well.
Well, then I've got the thing of being, and I say this every time we chat, I'm a slow reader, and I once my list gets big and long like this, I struggle to get caught up.
Yeah.
Unless I shut out the outside world, which I don't want to do, because I enjoy doing my buddy reads. I enjoy doing, the different things here on BookTube, like June on the Range. I enjoy doing those things, and I don't want to shut those out. So
that's right. Yeah. It's a fine balancing act, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, let me see. I'm just going to show you one more book. I promise that's it. And then, then closing thoughts. This is actually history. And it's a small little volume, but this is called A Remarkable Man, Dr. Shintaro Hida, From Hiroshima to Fukushima by Mark Pettigene. And this is about a young doctor who played an essential role in the aftermath of the Hiroshima bombing, which he witnessed firsthand only 6 kilometers from ground zero. So, I'm really, that's another aspect of history reading is like, there's so many different horrific events in history and people who witnessed them that I've always been intrigued by. Like, John Hersey was the one who wrote, he went and saw the aftermath of the bombing.
Hiroshima, wasn't it? It was just.
Yeah, Hiroshima. Yeah, that's right. And so this is a firsthand account of this doctor who was tending to the overwhelming number of victims. And it says here, he would spend more than 60 years developing an unparalleled understanding of the harmful effects of radiation and warning against the reckless use of nuclear power. So it's not very long. I'd say 169 pages, but be a quick read, but I'm intrigued to hear his account. I'm always looking to read accounts from all angles.
All perspectives, yep.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got a question for you.
Yes.
Have you read, and I don't know this author's name, but it's called Black Rain. And it deals with the bomb.
Didn't they make a documentary called Black Rain? Because I've seen that a few times, and that is an amazing. And they might have done it based off the book. Yeah,
my middle school English teacher that I work with gave it to me, and I was supposed to have read it last summer, and it got put in the pile and then never got read, and it's sitting on my bookshelf right now at home. And I didn't know what your thoughts were of the book. She said it was excellent. I didn't know if you read it.
Let me check it out. And then while maybe you can answer Alfred here. And yes, I have.
Oh, yes.
I want to do a reread of that, though.
We need to do a reread of that, because that is like my favorite Civil War single volume history. Mm-hmm. That is my all-time favorite.
Mm-hmm. Mine too.
It's been a while since I've read it, and I need to come back to it and see if it's still my all-time favorite.
I think we've got a new project. I think we've got a new buddy read.
At that point, I had not read Bruce Canton. I had not read Shelby Foote. I had not read, and now I've read those. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to come back and see if it still holds up.
I'd like to discover that as well. So I've got the original copy that I read. Long since I don't know what happened to it, but Martine, many birthdays ago, got me both an illustrated version of it and the newest edition of the paperback. So I would love to add that. And if you want to bump that up to the top of our buddy read list, we could always do that.
I'm game.
Okay, cool. Yay!
You let me know when you've got time.
I will. I will. Thanks, Alfred, for nudging us in the suggesting our next buddy read topic. Or
yes, we highly recommend that book.
Yes.
Yes.
Highly recommend it. Back to Hiroshima just for a quick second. I want to tell you about that documentary, which if you're able to find it somewhere, maybe streaming for free, I think it was called White Light, Black Rain. Let me see. Yes, it was. It was a 2007 film, and it's called White Light, Black Rain, Destruction of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I knew for a time that it was on HBO, so I don't know if you have access to Max or HBO, but that documentary will just give you goose pimples all over. It was, oh man, it was powerful.
Yeah.
White Light, Black Rain. Yeah.
Well, I got it wrote down. I got a list of stuff. Thanks to everybody for
I know
PBR that doesn't need added to.
I know, everybody. Thank you for showing up. This nice little core of 20 people.
Oh, Anne asked, are you doing the Steinbeck group read? No, but I probably should. He's one of my favorite authors. Sorry, I just saw that comment.
No, yeah, no problem. I asked her who was doing that group read, and she says Book Chat with Pat. So I might have to go to her channel and check that out.
Yeah, so that sounds like that'd be a good one. He's what is it? Of Mice and Men's, one of my all-time favorite books.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Wow.
I reread that one every couple years. It's a good one.
Wow, that's interesting to know that.
Yep. His friendship, George's friendship with Lenny, reminds me a lot of my relationship with my little brother. And no, I did not shoot him. I did not shoot him. Let me put that up front. But my little brother is mentally retarded, and so a lot of the stuff, a lot of the ways that John Steinbeck portrays Lenny, it just reminds me of my little brother. And
okay,
it I don't know, just a connection.
It resonated with you personally.
Yes,
absolutely. Oh, well, I read it back in the day, and the ending was hard to take, but that was a powerful story. And I have not read The Grapes of Wrath. Have you? Yes,
I just read it. It was a couple months ago. Maybe it was at the end of last year. I don't know. I've read it this school year. I know that. And it was a good book.
I might need to see if I can schedule that into my schedule. We are reading so The Grapes of Wrath.
So have you seen the movie with Gary Sinise and oh, good night. Who plays Lenny? It's
is it John Malkovich?
Yes. That is an excellent movie. That's one of my all-time favorite movies.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to check that out.
Yep, it's a good one.
Wow, so many wonderful suggestions. What a lovely discussion. When you and I get together, Bill, we can easily fill up almost 2 hours, and which is pretty much where we're at. So
yeah, I would love to stay longer, but I am supposed to be going to the races in one of the neighboring towns. They got some racing going on. We'll see how that goes.
All right. Okay, be careful.
It's not me.
No,
I'm just a spectator.
You never know.
Yep.
If you've ever, seen
my
Final Destination 2, people in the stands are just as at risk.
Well, my daughter's excited to watch it. So my father-in-law drives a truck for a living, and I'm guessing it's advertising, but at the midway point through the races or whatever, he's supposed to be driving his truck around the track. So
okay.
He can ride in the truck.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. Just as long as it's not an amateur submersible that you're
Nope, not getting in that.
Oh, yeah, and I need to go, and nothing as fun as that. I need to go run up to the grocery store and pick up my grocery order and come back and, start making some dinner. But but this was fun. I like doing this.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me about it. And thank you for everybody that stopped and chatted with us and watched. And we love the interaction.
We're going to try, aren't we, Bill? We're going to try to do this every couple weeks.
Yes.
2 to 3 weeks,
Yep.
Depending on schedules, but
schedules play out.
We're going to be more regular about this, folks, because I think having this touch base really kind of helps me see what others are reading and kind of, puts me in a mind of like, okay, am I where I want to be with my reading, or is there
other stuff out there?
Yeah. Exactly. So thanks everybody. Thanks for joining us here. We hope to see you again next time soon. Enjoy your weekend. Be safe out there.
Yeah. Happy Father's Day to all you dads.
Oh yeah. I should have said, Happy Father's Day.
So we'll talk at you later.
Yep. See you guys.
Yep. And until next time, happy reading.
Thank you.